Hello to all you nature lovers. Welcome to another Africam show, proudly brought to you by explore.org. The voice you are hearing today is me, Taylor McCurdy, and we are at Naledi Dam this afternoon, just frolicking about with a herd of elephants. So if you are joining us this afternoon in sunny but windy South Africa, well, at least in the Limpopo province, it's quite windy today. Make sure you send through your questions. I look forward to having a bunch of chats. Goodness, I'm glad I'm inside today, although I'm just looking at the trees. They don't seem to be moving around too much, but literally Naledi Dam is really but a stone throw away from where I am sitting. Yeah, you know what I mean. Oh, there we go. Zygote, you said, hi, Taylor McCurdy. Hi, Zygote. I don't know what your handle surname is. We'll have to give you one. Hi, Zygote Zebra. We'll just make things up as we go today, as I typically like to do. But a breeding herd nonetheless, although most of them look like they've already had a drink. Hopefully they stick around for a bit longer. Amber, you've also joined us, and you said thank you to all the guides and hosts for sharing this time. You've got your coffee and yogurt and ready to learn. I also had some coffee today, and I didn't get to finish it because my dog decided that he'd like to try and finish it for me. Don't worry, coffee's not good for dogs. I stopped him, but I won't be drinking it. Kaoru, hello, nice to see you again. I'm sure you all heard those rumbles from the elephants, of course, greeting all of you, saying hello, howdy, probably asking for some delicious treats, wondering when marula season is. Isn't this awesome that we can be so close to elephants from a nice safe distance? And it's not very good to see the top of an elephant's head. It's something that I can't really ever say I've seen, to be quite honest. You must forgive me if the internet breaks up a little bit with all the wind. It is definitely affecting it on all sides. Oh, look how cool that is. Thank you, Zumi, for angling the camera downwards. It looks like this elephant cow is missing a tusk. I wonder if it's just broken off, or perhaps she was just born that way. Which is, of course, also quite common. And that youngster on the left desperately trying to have a suckle. Oh, Mom's standing nice and still for you. Jan, you've said, yay, Taylor, woohoo. That makes me excited. Good to hear from you, Jan. I can't wait for all of your questions. And, of course, would an Africam show be a show without Bob from Kalamazoo? Hello, good day to you. And, of course, all of you make this show wonderful. And I'm so appreciative that I get to spend my Tuesday afternoon chatting to all of you. I love this little waterhole. Obviously, the pan is to the left at the moment, but elephants being elephants, of course, like to drink the freshest water, so just utilizing the little reservoir. To be fair, I'd quite like to do that too. It's like the wind is messing up my words today. Well, I'd like to think that, but I always jumble them up too quickly. My brain works too fast, and my mouth can't keep up. Maybe that's why it always gets me into trouble. If only these elephants knew that we were right here watching them. Look how smooth the skin is on the top of their head, lacking all of the wrinkles like they have everywhere else on their body. This is so awesome. I'm trying to think what on earth camera is on. Is it on a thin pole? And why the elephants are so curious. Do they ever rub up against it? Durell, you said another stellar Tuesday. Hello, Taylor. Tearing myself away from Brooks Falls brown bears, but must continue with Africam. Yes, there we go. That's what we like to hear. We can watch that elephant. I don't know if you just noticed, very quickly she was sort of twisting her trunk a little bit. She was just investigating maybe some interesting scents around the base of the camera. But most of the herd moving off, and just the last two having a last sip. And you can clearly see why the elephants would not want to have a drink in the pan itself. It's all yucky and green. So that little reservoir is really coming in handy, especially at this time of the year. Bye, elephants. Thank you so much for visiting us. And without further ado, let's go check out Odonyo. and see what is happening in Kenya. Oh my goodness, it's a day filled with the giants. Isn't this a magnificent scene? I can't have favorites, but I think the Odonyo camera has to be my favorite, and I'd love to know from all of you which is your favorite camera. I particularly like this one because of its low angle, and of course it's very dry at the moment. I suppose it's dry here in South Africa too, but we've had an exceptional amount of rainfall in comparison to Kenya. But you can just see how arid everything is. And that's a lovely group of giraffe moving through. Perhaps they're going to wait for the elephants to finish drinking before they make their way in, before they have to join the queue, although they might be waiting for quite some time. Mary Momo, you've said hello from Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's lovely to have some chats with you today. You're with your cool, locally sourced glass of Mountain Valley spring water on a hot, hot day. That sounds like an ad. You did that really well. And then Timber Grace, good morning from sunny, warm, and beautiful Minnesota. Coffee in hand. Good to hear that we have many caffeine addicts amongst us. There's also lots of birds flying around. I have no idea what they are. They obviously, well, they're one of the starlings is a couple of doves. It's hard to see which starlings they are, but maybe they're the superb starlings, quite common in East Africa, a bit tricky to see, and of course lots of oxpeckers flying onto the giraffe. This is actually really lovely to see. So many different animals. Oh my goodness, what is creeping on in the back? Can you all see that? Wow. An oryx, because there's not much water here at all, and typically there's a lot of competition that we find around water, and elephants can be quite bossy and boisterous and will chase other animals away, but perhaps these giants are so used to interacting with one another, because I don't think there is a water source nearby. I haven't visited this area before, but it's on my bucket list. So definitely need to go and check it out so I can have a better idea of the topography and where the next water source kind of is. Look at this oryx coming in too. This is insane. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. So many different species of animals. Wow. I'm just going to quickly have a look at some of the questions. There we go. Trainer Matt 52 said good morning from North Carolina. You've got an iced coffee in hand, changing it up a little bit. Lara Moore, good morning to you too. I suppose this is a typical scene that you'll see in Amber City, and why it's such a popular safari destination. There you can see the elephant saying to the oryx, hey, get out of here. I'm not finished drinking. They don't seem too perturbed, just wait on the outskirts. Oh, what beautiful animals. Some also know them as gemsbok. And all the oxpeckers hopping around. These like red-billed oxpeckers. They're just so striking with that black and white mask. Something that we don't very often get to see in South Africa. We don't really have the right conditions for them. They do prefer the more arid environments. If you head towards the west, sort of western side of South Africa and then north into Namibia, that's where they thrive. Although lots of game reserves have throughout South Africa have actually tried to introduce them, including in the Eastern Cape, where I'm from. There's a couple of places that introduced them. I'm not sure how successful they were. I think, if I'm not mistaken, just like the springbuck, they suffered from heart water, which is a tick-borne disease. You'll find that this didn't have an immunity to them and unfortunately suffered quite a bit. It looks like lots of, I think they're superb. I wonder if there's also greater blue-eared starlings. We just sort of went past. Now, isn't this a fascinating view? Who can honestly say that they've ever looked through the back legs of a giraffe while it was drinking? I am going to have to take a short video of what we're seeing, because I don't know if anyone will believe me. And an eland, Africa's largest antelope. I wasn't joking when I said it was a movement of the giants all pausing for a drink. How spectacular. All just taking their turns, except for the poor Kremsborg, they got chased out. What a magnificent view. This would be a wonderful place to put a hide. Of course, we're lucky we have got the cameras, but the next best thing would actually be to be sitting there in person. Alaramo, you've said those are big elephants. They are, and Amboseli is known for the elephants and of its size. In fact, some of the last remaining tuskers in Africa roam this national park. So I would like to make it my goal for 2024 to try and get to Amboseli to visit these great giants. Alaramo, you've also said it looks like a scene from The Lion King. All we need is Zazu with a morning report. If you can all sing it, I'll join in. My singing voice is not very good. Some of you have probably heard that. Oh, there is a hide to the left. Never mind. Apparently there is a hide. How cool. Now I definitely need to come here. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Great Plains camp that is around this area. Look at those eland as well. All just going in for a drink. Also lots of ox pickers hanging on them. Ooh. This female looks, is it a female? Yeah, she looks quite pregnant. Or they're young bulls. I can't see, no, maybe it's a young bull. Come back here. So obviously it can be quite tricky to tell the difference between male and female eland. Females have got longer, straighter horns, but when the males are still quite young, they haven't quite filled out into themselves, it can be a bit tricky. The males go much darker in coloration, they have a huge dewlap, and then the base of their horns is a lot thicker. And again, just thank you. Oh, hang on, no, I'm getting too excited. I have to, there's lots of questions coming in and comments, which is wonderful to hear. Let me just make sure. Do I say it? Lisse? Sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Who monitors the cameras? Are they remote or on site? It seems as though they can see beyond the camera view without their panning, tilting, zooming. The experience wouldn't be as great. You're 100% correct. So there are Africam Zoomies, which is awesome. So people sign up and kind of join and control the cameras. It's not very easy. I've tried to do it once or twice before, not with Africam. And I've zoomed across the screen and back out and too far in, and it's a complete nightmare. So it really is an art. It takes a lot of practice, and they're doing a fantastic. So Ozzy Jan, you said you made it with your copy. Yeah, just in time. Hopefully the animals keep on rolling in. And then Zygote, you said, I thought oryx prefer a dry type area. Absolutely, but the Amboseli is quite dry. Obviously, in Kenya, there's 2 rainy seasons. So we're now in the peak of the dry season before the short rains will arrive, only around November. So it's still a long way out. But naturally, around a waterhole, the vegetation is grazed and trampled first. So that's why it's also super dusty around here, and then you can kind of see the lush trees in the background. But a lot of those trees are various acacia species, so mainly Michelia species of trees. Also, there's a whole bunch of things roaming around there. Hello, Giraffe. That's an interesting angle. Just stopping and standing, taking the opportunity to ruminate. This is so pleasant. You know, obviously it's luck of the draw when narrating these live wildlife cameras. And if you have just joined us, this is completely live. This is in Amboseli National Park in Kenya. Yolan's not quite comfortable with moving in between the elephants. I would not like to get stuck in between them either. And we've just had elephant after elephant today. So I think what we'll quickly do is let's pop over to Tau in Madikwe and have a look and see what's happening there. Of course, if there's not much going on, we'll definitely come straight back to the Odonyo camera. Oh, look. It is a day for elephants, and it looks lovely and peaceful in the most northern parts of South Africa. One elephant heading off, another still having a drink, a wildebeest, and a flock of guinea fowl also popping in to visit. You can hear white-faced ducks also whistling in the background. Very different scene from what we were just looking at, although there is a common trend with it being sort of dry and arid everywhere we go. But this is a huge difference. Up in Madikwe now at this time of the year, it's quite barren. There isn't a lot of vegetation for the animals to feed on. You can even see with the surrounding trees. I'm actually not sure what those trees are. I'm wondering if a lot of it is sickle bush. I know Madikwe does have quite a bit of sickle, and I'm just looking at how they're growing. That's quite typical, which are not necessarily a favorite for the browsers to sort of feed on. Miss Jen, you said, "G'day, Taylor from Texas." Hello. I hope you're having a wonderful day. You can see just the little herd of wildebeest just taking time. Some sitting down. And a zebra. Hopefully there'll be more zebra in tow too. Goodness, if we were doing a safari, animal safari, I suppose all safaris are animals, but trying to tick off as many animals as we can, we'd all be winning, right? Perhaps if anybody wants to play the lotto today will be a good day, because I have never had so much luck on these different cameras, which is cool. It's my day. And to be quite honest, I was a little bit sad today. I don't know why, just, you know, the wind probably puts us all in a bad mood. But this has definitely brightened up my day, and I hope that it is going to brighten up yours. And I know a lot of you are just kind of starting your day now. You can see the zebra walking in nice and slow, no rush. I think out of them all, zebra take the longest to make their way down to a waterhole and drink. I like how one walks, the other one waits in the middle, and then they kind of get to the same point and stop. The same thing, you know, sort of carries on. You said how beautiful. Yes, everywhere. Everywhere we look is absolutely stunning. I also like the reflection that we're getting on the right-hand side of the screen of the elephant that's drinking. There seems to be a gentle breeze which is just stirring up the water a little bit, so we're not getting a crisp, clean reflection, but a good enough one nonetheless. Very quiet though. Can't hear too many more birds. I thought we'd maybe hear the guinea fowl clucking away. Just those whistling ducks. No moorhens. Sometimes you see them too. You can hear the wind every now and then also just catching the mic, but it's a bit difficult to say what the weather is like in Madikwe. It's very far away from where I am, but just by looking at it, it does look quite peaceful. Oh, let's quickly go and have a look at Odonyo again. I think we might have a bit more action there. And to be honest, I'm being quite cheeky, and I just want to spend the entire afternoon at this camp. So it seems as though it's settled down just a little bit. Airline's still trying to sneak in. Alaramo, you said screenshots that can be modified of these views would make lovely coloring pages for school-age children. Absolutely. What do you mean school-age children? I'm barely an adult, and I definitely would like to participate in some coloring. I think that's such a good idea. I was just blown away by the view that we had earlier through Giraffe's legs. I never thought that I would look at a waterhole like that. Looks like a couple of ringneck doves join the scene. What would a waterhole be without doves and starlings? I do like that the giraffe has sprung its head out the backside of an elephant. So an interesting view. Lots of bugs around, tail swishing. Everybody's lovely and relaxed. Oh, this is an interesting one. Ala Ramo, you said, do you think elephants admire their reflection in the still water? I wonder. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd like to think that elephants would do so, but I'm honestly not sure. What does everybody else think? Sylvan, you said you're lifting your mood. You're here in Arizona, and it's a good morning, and it's only a pleasure, of course. I could just do this all day long. Sit and watch this camera. I know for a lot of people, they leave these cameras on while they're working to have the natural sounds of the bush, which I think is a clever idea. Sorry, I'm snapping at my dog who thinks he's going to go outside and bark at something. He absolutely will not. Go and sit down. Those poor eland just getting moved out of the way. Now, if I sit and think about what this would be like in South Africa around a small waterhole, can you imagine the chaos if you had so many different animals? Gosh, the elephants would definitely not allow anybody else to drink. But I suppose when water is scarce, and sadly Kenya has experienced many droughts, as of course South Africa. They've been struggling for a little while and really are desperate for the rain. So maybe that's why they're a little bit more tolerant. Although then I'd think that they'd be a bit more bossy and not tolerate everybody else. Saigo, you said that the elephants admire getting in more water. Definitely. Definitely. I wonder how deep this waterhole is. Have any of you ever seen an elephant go into it? Obviously, there's not much there, but with all the animals around it, it wouldn't surprise me if it's welled out quite a bit so that it holds water a lot better. The nice thing, or the thing that I do really like about this waterhole at the moment, is not too muddy. It always makes me quite sad when you get these waterholes of dams that are sort of drying out, and the mud is basically like what you can imagine tar to be like, and poor animals get stuck. So I'm glad that the ground is nice and hard and not causing any issues. Beautiful herd of eland. It's also lovely to see them. Again, we're not spoiled for sightings of eland, especially not up in the Lowveld area. You go up quite far north into Kruger National Park, and especially in an area called Makuleki. I speak about Makuleki quite a bit. Then you see huge herds of eland. The most I've ever seen is about 150 in the, I almost said winterthorn forest, but that's not in Makuleki. The big fever tree forest that occurs around there. It's so spectacular. And a couple of the elephants all resting their trunks on their tusks. It must be a relief. And you've asked, we never see any female elephants at Odonyo. Any idea why? Not necessarily. There definitely are breeding herds within the area, which you quite often find with bulls. So we obviously talk about elephants not having territories, right? They have home ranges, so they're constantly on the move searching for, new areas to feed in, and of course the freshest source of water, or just any water at all. Can't be picky at times. So breeding herds will tend to move around quite a bit, but what happens with the elephants as they start to get a little bit older is that they have their favorite spots. And they'll kind of just do loops and loops and loops around in their favorite areas. And they don't always roam as much. However, when the elephant bulls go into must, that's kind of that kick that they sort of need to drive them in search of females that are in estrus, and not just stick around in the areas that they typically hang around in. So I've spoken about this actually before, where you'll see with anyone that's doing studies on elephants, and especially bulls that have got these tracking collars on them, you see it so incredibly, and I wish I could show you up on a map. And let's go and have a look at Tao, and I will continue this conversation. And you just see these bulls going around in a big circle. It's not a perfect circle, if you will, but just going around, and then when they go to must, they shoot huge distances away. And then once they're out of must again, found females to mate with, and they kind of come back to the same spot. But again, not with younger bulls, with typically older bulls. So maybe that's a reason, but I'm not entirely sure. Andy, one day when I go to Amboseli, I will have to feeding herd of elephants for you. And then maybe I'll have a bit more of an idea as to why the bulls just hang around. But we see it. I mean, I've even seen it so much, like in Zambia, I always use the example. Even in Sabi Sand, we see the same elephant bulls over and over again. But here we've got a breeding herd of elephants zigzagging across the rocks, making their way down to the water, walking in a nice formation, not sprinting, just a sort of casual stroll, but also not wasting any time. So, Alaramo, yes, you said elephants are one of the species that are self-aware to the mirror tests. Yes, absolutely. I'm just wondering if they'd be able to notice their reflection as well. I mean, I'm sure they must do. Their eyesight is not too different to ours. I think specifically on those nice still days. But it would be so hard to kind of test something like that. It wouldn't be particularly easy. And then were those hartebeest at the back? I just saw them briefly, but I'm trying to think what it must be. Is it hartebeest? Oh, look at that greeting ceremony. This is nice. It's quite a young bull. I say he's young because his body doesn't look quite in proportion yet. He's tall though, very tall. You can see how the breeding herd of elephants have kind of out and given him the sort of run around, briefly touching trunks and engaging, but not really hanging about. You can see the different cows sort of splitting off with their youngsters too. And this is quite normal. They're not going to be interested in him much. It must be such a horrible feeling. Oh, okay, no one wants to kind of talk to me today. I'll just carry on down that way then. And then the herd coming back together again. I always feel really sad or really sorry for young elephant bulls that haven't quite found their way. No one's interested in them. Off he goes. And this is one of my favorite scenes, is to see breeding herds of elephants all stretched out in a line like this. It's always quite pretty when it's just a completely flat landscape, or you've got these sort of undulating hills too. They can be quite beautiful if you're able to get nice and low down to the ground. Look at that. And you see these elephants are going to be having to travel some serious distance to find suitable browsing. There's not much around at the moment. A couple of green patches here and there in the tops of the hills. But everything else in eye shot is not so great. They're eventually getting there. Oh, let's see if they pick up the pace a little bit when they reach the water's edge. When taking note of the breeding herds that come down, there's a nice cow in here. She's just going to pop up now. She's in the middle of the herd. She's got an interesting sort of tusk growth. The left tusk seems to be much longer than the right, and a nice shape. Are there any favorite individuals? Oh, Rolling Trouble, you're up late and you missed the show, but you wanted to say hi. Hello. Oh, I'm so sad that you weren't here to join us. We had some spectacular views between giraffes' legs as elephants drank behind them. So that was quite cool. We've actually just had a day filled with elephants, which has been rather wonderful. I'd definitely like to get to know the breeding herds of Madikwe a bit better. It looks like white-faced ducks. And it's South African shell duck, I think, also swimming around there, which is something I haven't seen in forever. ever. But sadly, it's a time for me to say goodbye, but that doesn't mean that you can't still watch the live cameras, so make sure you continue watching and let me know if you see anything interesting. But thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.